All right, so good evening and welcome to night number 2 of week number 2 at AIM Dance Summerfest.
Yes.
Yes. We're here welcoming Caitlyn Cork. She's one of our choreographers in the festival this weekend. We're going to take a moment just to get to know her, get to know the work, and talk a little bit about what we're doing here at the festival this year. So, Caitlyn,
Amy,
why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
my background is dance, and I went to Sam Houston State University, and I recently graduated with my BFA in dance,
Whoop, whoop.
May 2024.
Yes.
So I have a piece of paper that solidifies that I did that,
Yeah.
and debt.
Yes.
So it's going great because I'm at my first festival using my
Yes.
piece of paper.
That's right. Yes. Very
So,
good. Very
yes.
good.
Background, I danced growing up
Mm-hmm.
and I loved it. So I kept doing it. And it was drill team and it was studio competition.
Yep.
And that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. But if you don't mind, let's
Yeah.
for a moment talk about the transition because I too grew up a competitive dancer in a
Mhm.
studio
Okay.
and kicked that solid sequence hat every Friday night
Yeah.
under the lights as
Mhm.
well. I was on my local drill team.
Right.
And then transitioned into collegiate dance,
Mhm.
right? It is a transition, is it not?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit about that transition, what that was like for you, the introduction to modern contemporary dance, if you will?
Yeah, so whenever I grew up as a child, I did more like all-star drill team, like I was going to worlds and
Uh-huh.
like doing obstacle turns and more so doing the trickies,
Yeah.
the aerials and all of that fun stuff. And then I transitioned to my next studio, which was more, it was still competition based, but it was more improv and movement based.
Okay.
So that kind of helped me, I think, a little bit with the ideas of collegiate dance also, because like I did have a modern class there, which
Okay.
I had never taken modern in my life before that.
Right.
I was happy doing alsacone turns.
Yeah.
And yeah, whenever I started doing that, I had no clue, probably of any dance history, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I probably couldn't tell you what style we were doing of modern technique at that time in my life. I just knew that I wasn't a fan of it.
Okay.
I didn't really mesh well with modern in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then whenever I graduated high school, I took about like 2.5 years off from dance because I just wasn't sure what I was going to be doing. And I was taking classes at Lone Star Community College.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually where I met Ashley.
Yeah.
And but while I was in that like gray period, I was mainly taking classes in Houston, like Soundbox, and like doing more hip hop stuff because that's where I wanted to be. But I think all of my friends from high school, a solid amount of them were like going to college, and like a few of them continuing to pursue dance. And just with the people that I was following, it started to shift my kind of feed of what I was seeing dance wise. Mm-hmm. So instead of seeing, all of my friends being at competitions and doing competition dances, it was all starting to turn into floor work, and it was starting to turn into it was starting to turn into all of this super
weird.
Yes.
You can say it.
Yes.
Intriguing. Unique.
Artistic.
Artistic. Good word.
It was turning into this very yeah. What we just said. That movement, and so I think that also helped me like
It's a little bit of influence.
Yes.
It influenced you.
Getting myself
right?
into that university with the dance that they do. They're doing that kind of dance, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, whenever I got there, it was pretty good.
But it took a minute for it to kind of
in my brain.
Yeah.
Like
to transition
kind of understand
into
what was like okay, this is like a world that's happening.
Yeah.
This is
Now,
concert.
you
and this is,
mentioned that at the time you didn't know anything about dance history. Do
Yeah.
you think that going into the university process, getting that background information in the history of dance, maybe even some appreciation, do you think that that helped you with your transition?
yes, definitely. I think because I mean, taking a dance history class at Sam Houston, it was it definitely made me appreciate modern a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I mean, everything that I had been kind of exposed to, I was thinking like Martha Graham, and then I was thinking like Martha Graham, and then Martha Graham.
Martha Graham.
So that's like literally all I knew. Uh, and then I heard of Merce Cunningham, and then I heard of Paul Taylor, and then I was like, I like Merce Cunningham. I was like, he's
Yeah.
kind of goofy. He'd be doing the random things.
Yes.
I like Merce Cunningham. And then one of my professors, Francisco Graciano, he worked with Paul Taylor,
Mm-hmm.
and so in his modern classes, we would just be
Yeah.
Paul Taylor. And that was again just kind of like this. It was super codified and like very technique ridden, which I think helped my brain in a sense too, coming from a
Right.
super
Mm-hmm.
strict background in like drill team because
Mhm.
everything had to be a certain way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it felt going into that too. So I could relate to that. And then also it was this idea of this weird, silly, goofy movement too, which I had fun with that.
Yes, so let's talk about the work that you have presented. So, you've actually mentioned an interest in hip hop.
Mhm.
We're talking about contemporary dance. And I did get the pleasure of seeing your work, actually, for the first time last night. And in my opinion, I feel like I can see some of these other genres kind of blending in with that contemporary style. Can you talk to that? I mean, first of all, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, totally. Right. Yeah. As I was, I don't know, whenever I was in high school, I definitely had a niche towards like wanting to choreograph, especially to like, not necessarily, it doesn't have to be pop music, which is, you know, what I went with for this piece, but kind of funky music or something that has a little like quirk to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, in this piece, I definitely think there's a large hip hop influence, but there's also, I don't know, as I found my artistic voice, I found that, like, I don't know, tutting, right? So that's these very quick, like, little gestures with very super tiny hand movements that I can't do, but it looks great. And I love the visuals of it. And so I quickly, like, fell in love with the idea of, like, quick gestures and movements, which are still a thing in modern dance, gestures, right?
Right.
And so they kind of just naturally.
Yeah, you found that connection, the familiarity between something that you were comfortable with, something you weren't comfortable with, and found a pathway for them to mesh together.
Yeah.
Is what I'm hearing, which is incredible, and that's really how you find your artistic voice, right? Is you're taking all these influences that you have, they filter through your system, and then they come out.
Yeah.
In this very unique language. So with this being your first festival,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
How do we feel?
Excited. I feel super grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah, I think I was not I don't know. Words. It was like I was just applying to things like cuz I know that I want to go more choreography route and like I still want to dance, but I think choreography is my main passion. And within that, so I just kind of like was finding things, but it feels really good to make it into something, you know, like and putting something back into the dance world after all this time of just being in it and learning from it. It feels really nice to be able to present something in it or give back to it.
Yeah.
So
If there is, let me rephrase that. Sorry. We talk a lot about our audience. We talk a lot about the relationship between the works that we're presenting and our audience. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we do art talks is to engage with our audience, to bring them into our process and what it is that we're doing, right? So, what is your relationship to the audience, or do you even take the audience into consideration when you're creating?
Yeah, I don't think I think about it a lot whenever I'm creating. Um, I think more so on like an emotional aspect. I just
Mm-hmm.
want the people who are watching to feel something.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, like whether that just be a random emotion of like them giggling, that makes I'm like, okay, perfect. Or like whatever I'm creating, I just want them to get something from that.
Right.
Like whether even if I have an intention of what my piece means to me, if they can connect to it in some way, shape or form, I'm like, okay, perfect. And it makes it more interesting too. I feel like whenever I get to talk to them about it, I'm like, just curious. What did you see? What did
And
you
does
feel?
that information, when you talk to them, does that information feed back into your process, whether it be that work or the next work or how you look at your work?
Definitely. I think whatever they may say back to me is probably going to inspire me throughout the next couple of things that I do. Or if there's something specific that they say that they enjoyed about it, I'll probably take that item and then like keep building upon that or
Yeah.
just in that realm of things.
So this particular work, can you give us the title?
Are we still friends? Friends spelled FRENZ. Yes, I don't know why, but I love it.
The quirk,
Yes.
right? You got to make it
Yes.
your own.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
You get it.
what is it that you would like for the audience to get out of this work?
Mhm. Um I think a lot of it has to emotion wise do with some anger and some stubbornness.
Mm.
Um Anger, stubbornness, a little bit of maybe not heartbreak, but like just a little pinch of sadness, like that anger that's masking kind of the sadness.
Mm-hmm.
And then um hello? I don't know where it went.
That's okay.
Yeah,
It happens to me often.
but yeah, towards like the end of the piece, I kind of am just like there was for my process, I felt like there was no real solution for
Mm-hmm.
whatever was happening. It's just a recognition of what happened.
I see.
And I think that would be maybe part two of like
Yeah.
understanding.
So, because like you do use a pop song,
Mhm.
right? And so I feel like that pop essence of it brings in a little bit of, for lack of better words, commercialization,
Mhm.
right? Commercial dance.
Yeah.
And so I, as an audience member, don't readily get a personal experience.
Mhm.
But did this come from a personal experience for you, or just the general idea of asking that question of there being a situation and, well, are we still friends or not?
Mm. Yeah, I think this did maybe come from a personal experience. It I was playing with the idea at the time whenever I created this piece of like what would it feel like if you were to I guess talk to your inner child or like inner self.
Mm.
And so like one main character would be the person's self today, and then the other one would be the inner child or like the past self.
Mm-hmm.
And the past self is like really trying to rekindle with the person today, but like I'm being too stubborn because I didn't like that person.
Uh-huh.
So now I'm trying to figure out a
Yeah.
way through
Negotiate that.
yes, negotiate it. And it's I think that's where like the stubbornness comes from and the anger of like not wanting to deal with it yet,
Mm-hmm.
but kind of eventually recognizing that okay, this isn't going to leave me, like it's going to keep happening. So
Yeah.
I definitely understand the idea that because it is a pop song, like there's specific words being said and that
Mm-hmm.
will influence what is happening. And I do believe that sometimes the music can overpower what is being told or said in the movement on the stage. But in this sense, I kind of was just like it. Whenever I first heard this song, I was thinking obviously this is like maybe a breakup or like
Mm-hmm.
two people like have hit a rocky patch in
Yeah.
their friendship and can't decide if they're still friends or not. And I was just like, I'm playing with this idea. and this can go into that realm.
Right.
And so I tried to figure out how that would.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's a lot
Yeah.
of words. That's that.
Well, Caitlyn, welcome to Summerfest, our
Thank
first
you.
year with us. Congratulations. We're
Thank
so
you
happy
so
to have
much.
you here with us. Thank you for giving us your time tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy.